Now, within days of the military coup in Niger Republic, ECOWAS leaders responded with tough economic sanctions to force the military leader, Abdurrahman Chiani, to restore democracy in the country. The sub-regional body has further tightened the noose by blocking the accounts of individuals and entities related to or involved with the military junta. In Nigeria, the financial sanctions were carried out by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, as directed by President Tinubu. Nigeria also blocked goods in transit to Niger, especially from Lagos and eastern seaports, resulting in the loss of billions of naira for businesses. Nigeria had earlier cut off Niger from electricity supply, a move that has thrown most parts of the country into darkness, with some prominent Nigerians saying that the sanctions were more effective against the people rather than the military government, hence the calls for such sanctions to be relaxed. ECOWAS has also ordered the closure of all land borders as well as placed a ban on air travel in and out of Niger. In retaliation, Niger has also shut down its airspace, forcing airlines to take longer routes to destinations such as Europe. But analysts say the sanctions seem to have had no much effect on the military leaders who are yet to shift grounds and have gone ahead to appoint a new prime minister, transitional cabinet and regional governors. Well, joining us now is Professor Anthony Chibo. Christopher, he is a professor of international business economics at the SBS Swiss Business School in Zurich, Switzerland. He's also CEO of the African Socio-Cultural Development Foundation and a consultant to ECOWAS and many other international agencies, including the federal government of Nigeria. So good to have you, Professor Chibo.
Thank you.
Talk to us about some of these sanctions economically that have been put in place and how you think that they've been able to make some impact. And with your regional expertise on this particular matter, how it could be resolved.
Okay, let me start by letting us know that I'll be looking at things purely mainly from the economic point of view. Then, with that in place, let's go and invoke the fact that from all visuals, the people are in support. I'm talking of the Niger people. From the visuals we see, the people are in support of the recent coup. Now, please note that, let's go back 50 years, maybe 55 years. Health infrastructure in Niger has declined. Education infrastructure in Niger has declined. Security infrastructure and security itself in Niger has declined. These are the fundamentals of economic development. And here, from so-called nowhere, people come up and invoke those declines as a reason why they are taking over government. I would say, and I will delve into other things, it's a little bit unfair to react to what I have just said now with further sanctions, with sanctions that create more economic hardships on the people, I would say. Especially if you, when I mean you, the people that did that, are pretty much in the same situation. I want to trust that you live in Nigeria. Health services and health infrastructure has declined in the last 60 years. Education has declined in the last 60 years. Security has declined in the last 60 years and continues to decline. I am saying that from the economic point of view, we really cannot afford to have reacted in the way we reacted.
Well, ECOWAS is an economic bloc and they have to protect their members.
Yeah.
One of the key aspects of bringing them together is to have democratic governance.
Okay.
And so they have to enforce the charter according to them.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that the calls for restoration of democracy is one that you should juxtapose with this control of natural resources? Because underneath it, the Nigerians, which you have said are supporting the military junta, are actually saying that they support them because they want a control of their resources, especially uranium and all of that.
Underneath any unrest of this is an economic desire or the lack of economic development. If you dissect the reasons why we are where we are now, there is a lack of economic development and a yearning for it. If you really want to solve the problem, if you really want peaceful democratic governments and nobody to upheave them at any time, then give the people economic development. So if the pathway forward should have been the pathway, follow economic development. I tell you something now. Research has shown, strategy has shown, that in a hypothetical situation, if the reaction would have been something like this: we hear you, okay? We hear your demands, we hear your problems and your complaints. Okay, we are working on it. You know, you've just overtaken a democratic elected government. However, we are working on it, and we are looking at seeing how you get better health care. We're looking at seeing how you will move out of the safer, which is a stranglehold on your economy. You should determine your own monetary policies, and we are looking at how we can meet your demands. I tell you, research has shown that the reply that would have been gotten would have been at least 60% different from
the coup leaders.
Yes, from the coup leaders.
Well, if ECOWAS goes that part, then I mean they risk other governments across the sub-region being overthrown the same way.
Do they? Do they? Now, okay, let's see. I want to emphasize, in my opinion, that the resolution to all conflicts is economic development, from an economic point of view. If anywhere there is economic development, you tend to have peace. Anywhere the people are yearning for power to be able to control their destinies, and you tend to have upheavals. So you should go that way. However, there's something that's always lacks, and it's showing in the negotiations here. There is no economic development without cultural change. And even when you're negotiating, you must always consider the culture. What do we define culture as? It's very important. Culture is the ideas, the customs, or the social behavior of a group of people. Now, this culture, if you don't have any new ideas, I just define culture, you're not going to, if you're not implementing something new towards the actions of economic development, you will not get there. If your social behavior does not change towards economic development, you will not get there. In 10 years' time, in 50 years' time, you will take cognizance and see that you have actually done negatively in your economy. So I still repeat, in my opinion, that the solution is economic.
All right,
the
sanctions have been there. We've seen the sanctions being put in place. The borders are shut. The airspace has been shut.
Yep.
And electricity supply from Nigeria to Niger, all shut. And people, especially from northern part of Nigeria, said that, look, these are our brothers. Even our own local economy from this part of the country is strangulated because we have relations with Niger. Could you please, President Bola Tinubu, lift these sanctions and continue negotiations? Don't go to war, because war will be costly, and we don't even as a country have enough monies to go to war. ECOWAS is too poor to be able to go to war. What's your view about it, the sanctions, and then the economics of a likely war in Niger?
I believe because of the economics, let's start from there, we are not going to war. From the Nigerian point of view, I believe that our commander-in-chief is surrounded with people that are going to give him the very advice I'm talking about here. We can't afford the war. It is economically immoral to go to war, and I believe we're not going to any war. The sanctions now obviously have no effect. They've had no effect. If they've had any effect at all, they have done suffering to the people of Niger. Please note now that I talked about culture. The culture of most of the Nigerians and most of Nigerians, at least from the northern part of the country, are the same culture. It is impossible. This is my second reason for believing that we can't go to war. You can't go to war with yourself. The people there that created this coup have the same social behavior with a very big population of our of our country. They think the same. They have the same customs. Economically speaking, can I repeat? Economically speaking, you can't go to war. I don't even think, I'm not a soldier, but I don't even think it's strategically possible. Yes, you can invade, but I don't think you're going to achieve your aims if you go, because of the cultural affiliation in between the two countries. So I think it is wise. It is very wise to go through that, to go through the known fact that what has caused this is the lack of economic development, number one, and what is going to solve it is the giving of economic development. Let the discussion start from that. We understand that you have been under siege. We understand that you have been enslaved. We understand. We are the ones to do that. We are the ones to do that. I understand what it is. I know what democracy is, and I know that a democratic elected government has been overthrown. But that does not supersede the reality of the culture on ground. The whole essence of democracy, the whole essence of is so that the people can determine where they are going to. Right now, the people say that they are not determining where they are going to. I think something different. I think ECOWAS, rather than what they have done now, should actually, being an economic body, do what I said at first and say, we understand you. And economic development and economic progress, healthcare and everything should be coming your way. However, think about it. You have just overthrown a democratic government. Why don't we see, can we come midway? We try our best as an economic bloc, are you with me, sir? To give you what you're looking for, and you give us what we're looking for, but because we can't have this happen in another place as well. That is the place to start from. Now, have you noticed that some people have been rejected? I'm talking of diplomacy, and some people have been accepted. Some people have seen the coupists, and some people have been refused. Of course,
that's the religious triangle that came into the discussions where the former Emir of Kano had to be allowed
but you called it religious.
Yes. I mean, more
you're
religious,
very right.
Cultural, and
I would rather call it cultural.
Okay.
Yes, and if I was advising, I would have assembled a team, knowing what the definition of culture is, of the same culture. Because they would tell you what you are not seeing. They would go, meet with the coupist, and come back and interpret things in a way that nobody else would be able to interpret for you.
And that's why former Emir Sanusi Lamido actually had a session with President Bola Tinubu after he had that session with the coup leaders.
Beautiful.
Now, as we try to round off this conversation, just talk to me about these sanctions.
Okay.
Are you for or against the fresh sanctions by ECOWAS?
I think it's obviously against. Subtly against. Politely against. And
so
I believe...
What do we now do? You want Nigeria to restore electricity, open the borders at the moment. Wouldn't that weaken the ECOWAS resolve?
Well,
push the coup leaders away?
A mistake was made, in my humble opinion, a mistake was made in the first decisions, in the first hours of... The reaction was a mistake. There's no losing of face in the matter. I think the right thing can be done now, which is let's be people-based. Let's be people-based. Let the people. Something came to my mind now that is funny, but let the people have some succor. Let's give the Nigerians the truthful impression that we care. Those Nigerians that we're seeing on TV that are in the stadiums, that are on the streets, let's give them the truthful impression that we care about them and we care about their economic problems.
How about others who say that some of these people are actually being pushed out by the military junta to use them to actually shield themselves from ECOWAS? That if the supporters of the former president are also allowed to come out, that there could even be more than these supporters of the military junta.
True. I don't know. You don't know too. We don't know. But it's still the fact that they invoked the lack of economic development cannot be ignored. If it wasn't there, then this would have been a case, a no-brainer. But they have invoked it. You say they're using it to shield themselves, and so it can't be thrown out. However, the best way to even throw them out would be to focus on it, give the truthful impression that we are going to do something about it, and then what need would it be for you to be there if this is what we are going to do?
Okay, Professor Anthony, just before I let you go, there's this hypothetical question I want to ask you.
Okay.
Here we are having ECOWAS wanting to go to war with Niger.
Okay.
And of course, Nigeria will be contributing troops alongside other Anglophone part of Africa. ECOWAS. And many of them don't speak French. So we have a language barrier there.
Yeah.
And then some of our troops that will be contributing are actually Hausa speaking. And then, of course, majority of Niger, Hausa is one of their major languages there. And so would there be a sort of cultural betrayal against the armed forces? For example, Nigerian troops, because it's the Hausa, if you have some Hausa soldiers there who are, not wanting to go to this war based on the sentiments in the north, could they be selling some secrets to their Nigerian counterparts too? Is there that fear because of this, very high calls from the north that President Bola Tinubu should ensure that Nigeria does not go to war?
Yes. See, this is a fantastic question. It's a very serious thing. Strategy is strategy. Anybody that is specializing in strategy, whether it's economic strategy or even military strategy, will tell you do not go to war. Because the 101s of strategies shows that this is the worst, I repeat, the worst occasion or worst scenario, worst stuff to actually deploy troops. And again, it comes back to the culture. That's why I started with culture.
Yeah, and that's why I want us to end that way, because when it comes to culture, lots of things come in, and the secrets of both our military and countries could actually. But I want to believe,
my brother Sambu, that we are not going to war. I'm not the only person that in Nigeria that has this experience.
Yeah, and people also say that the economies of all the 15 nations cannot afford it
to do that.
And then we've seen like about 5 other countries, 4 other ones plus Niger, making it 5 out of the 15-member economic bloc, saying that, look, they don't support this.
One more thing.
Very
economic
quickly.
indices concerning our exchange rates have just gone up in a week, just within the last week. The rumor of war or the actualization of war will skyrocket beyond people's belief. I just want to
it will skyrocket yes. because of the issues that we are battling with internally. Ourselves. And we must thank you so much, Professor Anthony Chibo Christopher.
Thank you.
He's a professor of international business economics at the SBS Swiss Business School in Zurich, Switzerland, and is the chief executive officer of the African Socio-Cultural Development Foundation. And that's why we hear you, saying so much about culture and all of that. Exactly. And it's been out there everywhere that ECOWAS should have a rethink. The region cannot afford another war. The region is too poor to finance a war in dollars. And of course, Nigeria being the leader of ECOWAS in terms of leadership and then in terms of geographical size and economy, cannot afford another war. So it's left to the leadership of the government of Nigeria right now to have a rethink as to whether we could take a decision to go to this war or not. But good enough, the Senate is not in session except if President Bola Tinubu summons them back for a special session on this. But if this issue is dividing ECOWAS parliamentarians who have just been meeting some few hours ago on whether or not they should sanction the war declared by the ECOWAS heads of states and government, then it looks like we have a bigger issue at hand. And that's where we would have to leave it now. We'd like to thank our viewers for having watched us, and we would like to thank our guests, General Henry Ayola, who was here earlier on, and Professor Anthony Chibo Christopher for joining us to help our viewers understand these issues. And it's on this note that we'd like to thank you for watching and see you next time.